Wrestling podcast never felt this great. Tables, ladders, chairs, they tell it all. From the highest highs to the lowest fall. Grit and glory tales from the ring. Every chant, every cheer they'll bring. Devon and the Duke bring the heat. Wrestling tales knock you off your seat. Tune in now, don't you be late. Wrestling podcast never felt this great.
Brothers and sisters, welcome back. Welcome back to season 2 of the Devon The Duke podcast. This is a limited edition series hosted by your main man, Duke Loves Rasslin. And of course, the Hall of Famer, the man that continues to make history. And we're going to get to the history that we just made most recently in a moment. But of course, the one, the only brother, Devon Dudley. How you doing there, Devon?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Duke?
Listen, man, I am over the moon. Okay, you don't realize this, but as folks are listening to this, which it'll drop on Friday this week, this episode is going to drop on my birthday, 12/12.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
12. Look at that.
So I am in very high spirits, and I got some great news to share with you, with all of our wonderful listeners. But before we get to any of that good stuff there, we have a special guest that is going to be joining us in a moment. Literally the television editor of the Hollywood Reporter, a guy who is a great friend and collaborator that I've known for years, and somebody who really has his finger on the pulse of the television and the Hollywood industry, the one, the only, Mr. Tony Maglio. What's going on there, Mags?
Hey, man, I'm doing well. How are you guys doing? Devon, I don't think we've spoken, but Duke, it's great to hear your voice again.
Nice hearing you, Tony, man. I'm just over the static. I'm over the moon about everything that's going on right now.
How are you?
I mean, I was just telling Duke, I said, here it is. I did his show one time, and then somebody got out of line with me at a show, and I said, you know what? I'm going to get the point across. I'm going to call Duke and let me back on the show again. And we got on the show, and it just went crazy from there. So I'm just happy that, everything is going well for us, and we're moving on. And to hear everything that's going on right now, I'm just over the moon, ecstatic about it.
Yeah, congrats on, I heard you won a couple of things, Duke. Congrats to you guys, man. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you very much. I'm ecstatic about that. I mean, again, I got my own YouTube channel that's doing well, but now this is doing extremely well, and I couldn't be doing it with a better guy than Duke.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Absolutely. Well, happy to be here. Thank you again for having me.
Well, thank you. And folks, we're going to get to the awards once we finish up with Tony, but I definitely had to bring in an expert. I had to bring in somebody who can educate us and educate you listeners on the latest news. I know the dirt sheets are trying to speculate and all that good stuff, but you need somebody who actually is in the television world to explain this stuff and give us the real facts. I'm talking about the sale of Warner Brothers Discovery, aka WBD. There are 2 suitors who are battling to see who's going to own TNT, TBS, HBO, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Tony Maglio, give it to us straight, man. Where are we at with this whole WBD sale? And from your perspective, what is important that everyone should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I think it's most important to say that we're still early innings, but that doesn't mean something isn't happening. I mean, certainly things are happening. Netflix's offer for Warner Brothers streaming and studios was accepted, and that includes a lot, and it doesn't include a lot. But the thing that's important to say before we even get into what it does and does not include is that we still have another suitor, at least one on the table, and they're serious. Paramount made, a pretty hefty bid. It would be kind of a hostile takeover situation or, a hostile acquisition. Because again, that deal with Netflix and with Warner Brothers is done. I mean, it's signed, but it's still, 12 to 18 months away from being, active, I guess. We have to go through regulatory and so on and so forth. So there's still a better chance, I think, than most people might assume that Warner Brothers Discovery in its totality goes to Paramount. I don't think we'll see like an NBC Universal come back in at this stage. I do think we're probably in a two-horse race, but what's presently not 100% done is that Warner Brothers goes to Netflix without the Discovery part of things, which we can get into what that includes and doesn't include, or even goes to Netflix at all if Paramount continues to be aggressive and possibly even ups its offer again.
So Netflix wants portions of what we know as Warner Brothers Discovery, yet Paramount wants the whole thing. They want their movie division, they want all their television properties and what have you. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Paramount wants the whole thing, and one of the reasons they want the whole thing is because in their eyes, in Paramount's eyes, it is immediately a better offer to say we will take the whole thing versus you're going to go through this split into two that Warner Brothers Discovery was going to go into anyway, and we only want this piece, and then maybe we're going to break it up this way. So it's a much cleaner transaction, it seems, at this point, if it actually did go to Paramount as opposed to Netflix.
For wrestling fans and for wrestlers, because I'm going to tell you right now, obviously Devon being a Hall of Famer, he has a lot of friends in All Elite Wrestling, which airs on TBS, TNT, and HBO Max in various capacities. For the wrestlers and wrestling fans, where do you think what should they be paying attention to? What matters to them most, or should matter to them most, I should say, as it relates to all this?
Yeah, man, there are so many things. I hope I'm not too long-winded on this. Like, if Warner Brothers only, if the studios and streaming as planned goes to Netflix, things are very confusing because that does not include TBS, TNT, but it does include HBO Max, right? So in theory, you would expect that under the current AEW contract, it would continue to air on TNT, TBS, and to stream on HBO Max. Now, those might not soon, but within a year or whatever, possibly be under different companies. Interestingly enough, about a year or so is, I believe, what's left on the AEW deal with Warner Brothers Discovery. So much can change. And there is that X factor of, would WWE's agreement with Netflix for Raw and for other properties, would that even allow for AEW to stream on Netflix? My guess is WWE probably doesn't have as much strength in this situation as they did with USA Network, where they did not allow rival wrestling companies to air along with Raw and or SmackDown if it was on then at the time. But if Netflix and HBO Max stay separate, will AEW be allowed to stream on HBO Max still? I would think yes. But then what happens if Netflix and HBO Max do integrate sort of in the way that Disney Plus and Hulu have? Then what does that mean for contracts in terms of, non-competes for rivals and so on and so forth? So it is honestly so wide open and confusing right now. Hopefully we can give some clarity to our fellow wrestling fans out there, but there are so many moving parts. I couldn't even possibly list them all.
Devon, you're somebody who has gone through similar situations during your tenure with WWE and ECW, quite frankly, changing networks and things like that to different shows. From a wrestler's perspective, do you have any specific questions for Tony as someone who is in the weeds and kind of covering what's happening here? The major network that AEW is under right now, they're in the process of being sold. Do you have any questions from a wrestler perspective about that?
Yeah, well, I remember ECW being under TNN, or was it called TNN or TN?
It went from
TNN.
It went from TNN to Spike.
Spike TV.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember there was controversy with that because WWE was still on the USA Network or something like that, and then they were transferring over to TNN. And it knocked off ECW. They couldn't do it anymore. So they
Mm.
wind up canceling the contract with ECW. I remember Paul Heyman was extremely upset over that. The whole company was as a whole, because we lost our TV deal. That was one of the biggest things that ECW had to show for, with all the hard work that we had done over the years to get that deal. And then for us to be knocked off because the WWE was coming to TNN, and it just, I think that really, you know, broke ECW to where the company, wasn't making any money because we didn't have a TV deal. We had to go back to the days of making the footage and sending it out to different networks that would put us on. Does that hold true with AEW if that happens?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Devon, the history of wrestling in terms of its physical geographical territories and its TV territories are like they're one and the same, right? And you're absolutely right. There have been several wrestling promotions that sort of just got screwed because a network got a better wrestling promotion, better in this case meaning bigger, in their eyes at least, to distribute. So AEW, I do think they may end up as, or they could, I shouldn't say may, they certainly could end up as a victim of this. Just could, meaning it seems a little more of a hypothetical word to use than may, though I guess they mean the same. But it really depends on what Netflix and HBO Max do. Because for now, Netflix executives are saying all the right things. They're saying, we don't have plans to merge Netflix and HBO Max because they're, whether that's true over the long term or not doesn't really matter. What matters now is that they don't present in a way that would enable somebody to say, see, they're a monopoly. They're becoming a monopoly. They have to pass regulatory hurdles still. So they'll say whatever they need to say about Netflix and HBO Max. Now, do I think HBO Max and Netflix will merge into like Netflix Max? No, because I think everyone recognizes the value of the letters HBO. But do I think they will be completely bundled up together and tied together in so many other ways? Absolutely. Do I think it'll be like my Disney Plus subscription where I could also just go to a Hulu tab within my Disney Plus? Yeah, I think it'll be exactly like that. And so that begs the question of, if there is some sort of a clause where WWE has like wrestling exclusivity on Netflix, does that kind of go, is that still active if we're looking at it as a bundled property and not one and the same property? So I know that's sort of a long way to attempt to answer your question, but I think it's even more convoluted and confusing now that we have the same wrestling promotions on cable and on streaming. And those two companies will be different companies, presumably soon, in the case of AEW. So it's just even more complicated than it used to be. But I know it's just as competitive as it used to be.
Right. And I remember also it kind of bit TNN in the butt because right after WWE went to TNN, they weren't getting the viewers that they thought they were going to be able to get because not every home had TNN.
Mm.
So therefore, USA came back and said, okay, we'll give you this. You got the households if you come back to us. And WWE wound up leaving TNN
Mm-hmm.
and went back to the USA Network. Could something like that happen if that's the case, if it happens with AEW?
Yeah, I mean, distribution is the name of the game. It's been that way literally since the old territorial cable days of wrestling. It's why Fox did that SmackDown deal. Excuse me, it's why WWE did that SmackDown deal with Fox, the broadcast network, years ago, because that was the distribution is so much larger than even USA Network, which was still a reasonably large cable channel at the time. And now it's why WWE did the distribution deal with Netflix, because you ain't getting bigger than Netflix. So yeah, numbers, potential eyeballs matter to the wrestling promoters for sure. But it also just happened, it stands to reason that the larger platforms, Netflix or Fox versus USA Network, they also have a hell of a lot more money to pay WWE, to be there. So it's a mutually beneficial situation that, both it works out for both of them to not be on sort of a small scale network when the big boys come calling with their big checks.
We're talking
Wow.
to Tony Maglio, the TV editor of the Hollywood Reporter, here on Devon the Duke. Mags, I'm going to complicate this even more because the president of the United States just so happens to be a WWE Hall of Famer, and his son-in-law allegedly has ties with Paramount.
Uh-huh.
And Paramount put in that big offer and what have you. Now you talked about whatever deal is going to happen, it has to pass regulation. So that means the government has to sign off on the deal ultimately. How does that factor in from your perspective as somebody who's reporting on this stuff?
Yeah, so you're referring to Jared Kushner. He is part of the money backing Paramount's bid. Though all of the money is personally guaranteed by the Ellison family. Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle, David Ellison is the son who recently essentially bought Paramount and merged it with his Skydance. Yeah, it's very interesting, Duke, because like Trump, he doesn't have as much power in this situation as he says he does, as people think he does, as as his publicists, basically his White House press secretary, say he does. It's the Department of Justice that will decide these regulatory things. There is no FCC. Like the FCC chairman, Carr, he's been pretty loud about certain things lately, and he definitely reports to Trump and works for Trump, was appointed by Trump, all that stuff, with no real broadcast implications. Netflix and Warner Brothers Discovery, that is. The FCC doesn't really come into play. It's really just the Department of Justice. So, yeah, does Trump have he has influence is what he has. Does he have an actual say? No, but he still has influence. We'd be crazy to pretend that he doesn't have influence. And with Jared involved in Paramount and with CBS, a broadcast channel, being involved with Paramount, that's when the government gets even more oversight. Trump specifically gets a little bit more influence in that potential deal. But to act like he doesn't matter would be a lie. Like him or not, like the way he conducts business or not, he does matter here. It's why Netflix's Ted Sarandos, their co-CEO, why he had a meeting with Trump, basically, I guess, to tell him about the bid that is they're doing for Warner Brothers, and sort of to get his weird godfathery blessing maybe about that bid. So Trump does factor in here. He factors into different degrees depending on who ends up kind of entering regulatory with this deal. But yeah, he matters. The Hall of Famer thing is hilarious, and I didn't even think of it until you just said that. So yeah, listen, I know he did some matches. I know he kept his hair and Vince didn't, but I didn't think of it from that angle, and now I'm going to sit back and think of it for a little bit. But yeah, to answer your question in a very short way, I would say that, these Netflix or Paramount, they need the government. They need the government's approval. And within that government is Jared Kushner, and within that government is Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, Devon, everything is pro wrestling. So it's not just that Trump performed for the WWE. He's a long-term investor that goes way, way back to the 80s. He's very close friends with the McMahons. Linda McMahon is in the administration. Triple H is a special advisor who's part of some kind of sports and fitness committee that Trump had appointed him to about 60 days ago, roughly. So WWE is embedded in the administration. And for me personally, and you fellas can help me out with this, we'll start with you, Devon. I truly feel like WWE is going to influence how this shakes out. But no matter what, whoever is a competitor to them, they're toast. They're not going to have a chance on any whatever new and emerging company comes out of this sale, whether it goes to Paramount or it goes to Netflix.
I think you hit the nail right on the button. Trump has a lot of influence with WWE. He's with the McMahons, with Linda being in his administration, Triple H. So you have a lot of that going on. And like you said, it's almost like they can't do anything about it in a sense if Trump gets involved. Like I said, we can't say that Trump won't have an influence because he will. But at the same token, how much of an influence will he have? And I think that's the key question right there. How much influence would he have? And again, Just like the whole deal with ECW. We thought we were locked in. Now, Bubba and I were leaving the company, going to the WWE at the time when all of this stuff went down. We happened to be on the first show that TNN broadcast for ECW. But then right after that, we kind of left and went to the WWE. Excuse me. So all of that stuff that was going on, again, they lost their TV deal because of it. And then it was like ECW had no home to go to, which I couldn't blame Paul Heyman for being upset because he was promised one thing and then it was ripped right from underneath him. So will that be the same for AEW?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I hope I didn't downplay, and I don't think I did, but I hope I didn't downplay what Trump say in the matter, because to back up even a little bit further is the reason why Sarandos felt like he needed to kiss the ring, so to speak, is because it's been so widely known that Trump and the Ellisons are tight, right? So like you basically have, it's crazy to think that, it's almost crazy to think that Paramount doesn't have the advantage because, Trump just put through their deal with Skydance, or at least he didn't get in the way. He has spoken publicly and giving his blessings publicly to the Ellisons. Like, we know there is that relationship there. He also has it with the McMahons, as you indicated. Like, so Sarandos, my assumption, not that I've spoken to him, but it certainly stands to reason that he saw two parties involved trying to get Warner Brothers. He saw Paramount that already had a bid out there publicly, and he wanted Warner Brothers. In my opinion, I think he wants Warner Brothers more to block Paramount from getting Warner Brothers or NBC Universal to get Warner Brothers, because Netflix is so far ahead of the game. The only way anyone theoretically catches up is by merging with like their biggest rival, like an NBCU Paramount merger, Paramount Warner Brothers Discovery merger, something like that. So the Ellison aspect, nobody really thought that Sarandos would have the edge over the Ellisons until Sarandos did the super smartest thing, right? You just go to Donald Trump, I assume, kiss his ass, and suddenly you've got a friend at the highest level of the government. It's frankly what I would do if I was trying to merge two entities that maybe wouldn't immediately pass the merger test. So again, like, can Trump literally just veto it? No, but everybody knows how this guy operates. Everybody knows how the government beneath him operates. It's out of fear. It's out of loyalty. And so I think that's the only way Netflix sort of pushes Paramount away, is by doing exactly what Ted did.
I'm telling you, everything is pro wrestling, folks. Everything is pro wrestling. Listen, Mags, we definitely want to have you back in the future as this story continues to emerge, because you're at the forefront there, man. You're keeping your finger on the pulse. But why don't you let everybody know the best way they can keep up with you and on social media, the website, the whole 9 yards, and what could they expect when they check your stuff out?
Oh my God, they should expect that I haven't slept since Netflix Warner Brothers was announced, and it doesn't seem like sleeping is in the cards anytime soon, because this thing has so many moving parts, man. We could talk for literal hours. But yeah, they could check me out, The Hollywood Reporter, thr.com, Tony Maglio, I'm the TV editor. On Twitter, by all means, wrestling fans, we could argue about wrestling and anything that I said here that possibly could be wrong. You could call me out on that on Twitter at Tony Maglio. And yeah, man, I'm always available for you guys. I'm a big fan of you guys as well. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Mags. As always, brother, we appreciate you. Go ahead,
just one more question. Even with the money that Tony Khan and his family has, there can't be any influence by him and his family that can persuade this to go in the direction for AEW?
Yeah, it's a great question, Devon. I'm glad you asked it. I haven't given it all that much thought. Yeah, the Khans are billionaires. They, as we know, they own the AW. Dad owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're very successful, and they've got a lot of money. But I think I would say that their influence is, relatively minor here, only because, I thought with Tony's money, we would have a very serious WWE competitor. And I don't want to belittle them. I went to a show and really enjoyed it. They've done a wonderful job. They have great talent. A lot of it obviously has come from WWE. But I think, as rich as Tony is, he needs the TV deal for the league. He doesn't need it
Hmm.
for his bank account. He doesn't need it for his yacht. He needs it for the league. So, yeah, money buys influence. And I'm sure at Cannes, when David Zaslav's on his yacht and the Cannes Film Festival, this is, and the Cannes family are on their yacht, yes, there is definite like relationship building and favoritism that money can buy. Not that WWE does not have money; they've got lots of billions now. But I do think it's one of those weird, frustrating things where the product has to lead the way. AEW has to be great to really be a WWE competitor, and I think it doesn't really matter who the owner of AEW is. I think the quality has to be there. It's a Devon. I would kind of put it to like the XFL or the USFL. Like
Right.
they had money and they even had
Hmm.
deals, and they didn't have the same timing as the NFL. But the problem was always they didn't have NFL players. They would get a few here and there. Sometimes retired from the NFL or cut from the NFL, very much like our situation with WWE and AEW. They're all great football players, man. They're much better than any college football player. They were tremendous, but the product wasn't there. It wasn't on par with NFL. And I think, that's where AEW ultimately has to get. And it has to do that two ways. It has to do that through the talent, which again, great talent, but they have to get a TV deal on par with WWE, or you'll never be seen as a true WWE competitor. And I don't know
Yeah.
if that'll ever happen. And I don't know that money can buy that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, AEW, they've got a lot to be concerned about.
Mm,
Indeed.
yeah.
Tony Maglio, we appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, I
Yes,
appreciate
thank
you
you.
guys. If I don't talk to you, have wonderful holidays.
You too.
You got
You
it.
too.
Same to
Thank
you.
All right, Duke. Thanks again. Devon, great to meet you here.
Thank you. Same here.
Yeah, take care, guys.
It's interesting, Devon. I mean, you got a guy like Tony Maglio who covers this for a living. So this is all he does. He focuses on television and Hollywood. In a major acquisition like this, we're talking between 50 and hundreds of billions of dollars. Billions with a B. This is the biggest
Right.
story in TV history as far as we know. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
movie history, because Paramount, they're in the movies, and WBD, they're in the movies. So this is going to affect, I think when you look at it, it's roughly 40, possibly 50% of all available television viewing. And I'm talking about streaming apps and stuff like that, folks. So all the different channels and things like that, when you add it all up, this is going to affect 50% of the marketplace. That's crazy.
That's a huge number.
Yeah. One company could
I mean,
determine everything,
I would hope that Tony could find another network that would allow his organization to be on there and to be able to produce what he's been producing now, which all goes back to what we said before. He needs help in order to get the houses up, to help merchandise sales go up, to be an even bigger competitor to WWE. And again, the diehard AEW fans that don't like when we talk about stuff like this because they feel like we're burying AEW. We're not burying them. These are all facts. You've had someone who knows the game and knows how this works and knows all the important players that's playing a big part in this, including the president of the United States, who could have a huge influence in this. We're hoping that they can actually find a network if this doesn't work out. You have to have a plan B. You have A. You know what? Bubba taught me this. He's like, because Bubba was taught by Paul Heyman and Vince McMahon. He said, Devon, if there's something given to us and we don't like it, don't just say, I don't want to do it. Have a backup plan. Have an A, B, C backup plan. So that way, if they still say no, at least you gave all of these backups and it didn't work. Eventually, one will. And that was always the case with the Dudleys and how we did business. And that's exactly what I'm going to say with AEW. Don't try to put everything in one basket with this, because if it goes south, then you're screwed. It's almost like you have to have a plan B and C if this doesn't work out. And I'm sure that if I'm saying this, somebody in their organization is saying this, but they have to have one, because if not, the unfortunate part is we might not see AEW on TV if this happens. And if that's the case, you and I both know without a TV deal, you don't have a company.
Nope, you don't. You don't. And I'm glad you brought up the ECW history, because that is the perfect lens to view this whole situation by. And I'll take it a step further. It has always been speculated that WWE has some type of clause in their television contracts, at least in the United States, that stipulate whatever TV channel they're on, that channel
No
cannot,
competitors.
yeah, they can't air competitors on the channel throughout the duration of WWE's time on that channel, right?
It's a no compete clause.
Yeah, basically. That's a great point. It's a no compete. So MLW was suing them for that, and WWE ended up settling with them a couple of years ago because they did not want that to go to court. Because WWE would have been accused of being a monopoly if they allowed that to go to court. They would have gotten crushed if that would have been put on the record in that manner. You know what I mean? So I say that to say, you bringing up the ECW thing is perfect, because that is a prime example, just like the MLW thing, that this clause probably exists.
I would think so. I mean, look, it's no different, Duke, than the talent in their contracts.
Yep.
There is a no compete clause. You have 90 days or 120 days, however many days it's in your contract, where you can't go and be with another competitor until that's over. So it's almost like draining the stock out of you from being on WWE TV. And by the time you go to another organization, now you have to start over again. People will remember you, but now you have to restart everything all over again with that new company. And it's almost like it's very similar to what we're talking about. So again, it's hard for me to think that WWE did not have that no compete clause when they went with Netflix. Not saying that they actually thought that somebody like AEW or whatever other organization would be going toe to toe with them, but I just can't see WWE letting that happen. They're too smart. They've been around too long, and they have too many important people with great minds to not take a chance on that.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And folks, we're going to continue to cover this. And, we have some television executives that we have access to. I think that these folks are waiting for the deal to get a little further down the street before they emerge and start, digging into it. But you have my word out there, listeners. Here on Devon the Duke, we will get some of these television executives to speak about, from their perspective, what they see. Because you're hearing it from a Hall of Fame wrestler who's been through this. You're hearing it from one of the top reporters and editors. I mean, the Hollywood Reporter, you can't get bigger than that. Now let's get an executive to talk about it as well from a television executive's perspective. Oh my God. I'm telling. Listen, we're turning into CNN over here, Devon. What the hell's going on?
Well, we just can't be pro wrestling and not talk about the ins and outs. We can talk about the matches, we can talk about the talent, but we also have to be able to be, knowledgeable on what's going on behind the scenes. And these are big deals that are being made and could affect the future of pro wrestling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of big deals, we've alluded to it, folks. So let's just get right into it. This episode here is episode 51 of the Devon and the Duke podcast. So this is the launch of our season 2. And boy, do we have a hell of a season 1. Devon, we
Yes.
always talk, you could say that again, right?
Yeah.
We always talk about championships, right? But,
Yes.
There's gold that you win in the ring, and then there's gold that you can win in the digital space. So officially, the Duke Loves Rasslin channel, in all the shows that are within the feed. So, the show that I did, the limited series show I did with Big Vito LaGrasso, the friend of ours podcast, Obviously, the main show, Duke Loves Rasslin, which will be celebrating 10 years this upcoming April, right around WrestleMania time. And of course, the force here, the Devon and the Duke podcast. We just won, not one, not two, but three 2025 Spotify Podcast Awards. We won Marathon Show, which has to do with the amount of time that listeners listen to each of our episodes compared to every other podcast in the world that's ever listened to on Spotify over the past year. We won the Talked About Show. So our episodes are being discussed more than the majority of podcasts in the world that have aired on Spotify over the past year. And we won most shared show. So most importantly, you fans out there, continue to share our episodes as you're talking about it and listening to it. So overall, we were listened to, talked about, and shared more than 75% of all podcasts in the world on Spotify. But let's take it a step further. In the world, on every platform, we are in the top 5% of all listened to podcasts in the world, which is crazy because we are an independent, Black-owned wrestling media show. So Devon Dudley, when people talk about your Hall of Fame legacy, they talk about tables, ladders, and chairs and all that good stuff there, right? But this is that's all about your body when we talk about those things. The sacrifices that you've given for over 30 years, putting your body on the line, right? Well, now folks got to start talking about your brain and your communication skills and your ability to connect with people on a micro level. Brother, you're not just a Hall of Famer in the ring. You're now a certified Hall of Famer in the podcasting space. How does it feel to be recognized as Devon Dudley, the communicator?
I feel great because people have to understand that, I didn't do a lot of talking when I did wrestle. Bubba did a lot of the talking. My theory was because my character came from Mr. T from Rocky 3. And in Rocky 3, Mr. T didn't do much talking. He basically went in the ring and destroyed people. That was pretty much how he got his point across, by putting fear in people. And I wanted to base my character off of that. But what I didn't put in perspective is that in pro wrestling, you have to talk. And it kind of hurt me a little bit because people didn't know if I could. So when I did certain promos like I did with Jeff Hardy, or when I did certain promos like the first promo I did back in 2000, we did WrestleMania, the first WrestleMania, we did the ladder match, the triangle ladder match. I opened up with that promo, and people were like, well, man, Devon can talk. We need to hear more. And I was like, nah, you don't need to hear more. You need to just wait and watch me in the ring. And again, it kind of backfired on me in a sense because people didn't think I could. But when I did talk, it was with passion and conviction. Excuse me. And it would get over. So people would say, oh, I want to hear Devon talk even more, which maybe it wasn't a bad idea because now that I am talking and showing that I do know what the hell I'm talking about in some aspects, um, now it's getting over to the point where people are like, yes, I want to hear more, which is great, which is actually coming across on the YouTube channel. Oh, we love the way you tell stories. We love the way how you intervene with guests that you have on there. It's a natural flow. It's this and it's that. Well, good. Maybe I did do something right, setting up for the future.
You sure did. You've done plenty of things right because despite you not talking as much, you still managed to be in 5 Hall of Fames. So, you know what I mean? My goodness. How do you top that? But to do it in this space, it's and correct me if I'm wrong. Remind folks, you went to school for communications, right?
Communications and broadcasting, yes. I didn't finish it because I thought that it was going to hurt me in terms of going into wrestling. When I passed up the scholarship to play football, I did it because I was so intrigued on getting into pro wrestling that I thought that if I finished or went to college and did it, that it would hurt my chances on making it. And I was just so ready to go and to be able to learn how to be a pro wrestler and then to make it to the WWE. I just decided not to finish anything. And it was wrong of me to do that. I would never want to tell the youth not to go to college, not to get their degree and this and that. You know, the fortunate part for me with that is that I was lucky and that I got blessed in making it to ECW, then from ECW to WWE, and then of course from WWE to TNA, and then back to WWE, and of course in between that going to Japan and becoming very successful with Bubba Ray Dudley or Bully Ray or Uncle Bully, whatever he calls himself, like to be called. But you know, it was one of those things that you know I'm just happy and proud that I've been able to be as successful as I have been, especially with the YouTube channel. I did not see that coming at all. And you know me, Duke. I am a biblical man. I base everything on God. And I like to say, you know, it was due to the grace of God that I've been able to do this and do it well. And, you know, there's a lot of things that I wanted to talk about over the years that I never thought people would want to listen and take into consideration what I had to say. I didn't have to practice. There were times where, at my first run with WWE from 1999 to 2005, I would get phone calls from the office and they would say, "Hey, Devon, we have a radio station that we would like for you to go on to promote the up and coming live event or the Raw and SmackDown because we're going to be in that town." Never once did I decline. The more practice I got, the better I became. So I was very happy that I did that. It helped me tremendously to be able to be comfortable talking and to be able to express my opinion and how I felt about certain things.
Well, I'm telling you, brother, you have nailed it. And now that we've made this history, it's not just about us. We have essentially cracked the ceiling for other independent black creators out there. And we've shown them that you don't need a big network in order to succeed. You can actually build something from the ground up and be recognized officially for it, you know? So, you fans out there, you're not just listening to the show, you have chosen us over the massive corporate shows. And I'm not just talking about pro wrestling podcasts, because that's the thing. We're being compared to every single podcast that exists that's been played over the past year. That's the thing. So you listeners out there are actively investing in our independent voices and you're voting with your ears. You're supporting our platform that celebrates wrestling and provides unique perspective on life. So seriously, thank you to everyone out there who listens, who shares, who discusses what we talk about on the shows. Thank you for making us not just a podcast, but one of the most impactful podcasts in the entire world. It's crazy. And the world is now officially taking notice of the talent outside the ring of Devon Dudley. Now that this man has a wealth of wisdom. He's a family man. He's a man that is a thinker. So he's not just brawn. He's not just out there and he can put people through tables and he has all the cuts on his head and all that stuff. That's all cool. And that's made him a fantastic life. Supported his family and all that good stuff. And if that's the only thing Devon Dudley has ever contributed to the world outside of being a great pillar of society, that would be wonderful. But the fact remains now, with these 3 awards, Devon Dudley officially goes down in history as one of the absolute best podcasters on the planet. And no one can take that away from you. So, on a personal level, brother, I can't tell you how proud I am to be able to do this with you and accomplish this because it is so difficult. Brother, I've been doing this for 10 years. I didn't win anything. It is so difficult to be recognized. We keep going viral. We keep getting, people talking about it and actually enjoying our last episode. I can't tell you how many comments I'm getting with people saying, man, that was your best episode. That was amazing. You guys had just great energy. You guys clearly really respect and appreciate each other. Like, that was a real good listen. It's like our best episodes are in front of us, which is the crazy part. We're just getting
Yeah.
started. You know what I mean? But to be able to take somebody who's known for being this rough and tough, kick-ass dude, and to be able to show the world, no, this man also has a brain. He has something to say, and it's worth listening to. That's the part that I love the most, bro. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm very happy. I'm very grateful, to the fans that listen to the show and that put us in the predicament where we are right now. We're the other two black guys. you know,
The black guys with the podcast. Now you got to call us the award-winning
yeah.
black guys with the podcast.
And for those of you that have heard past things that we've done on the show, you'll know what that means. But I'm just ecstatic about it and very, very happy. I didn't know what my life was going to be like after being in the ring. One of the reasons why I was a little nervous, after the stroke and after the back surgery, because it's like I dedicated my life to this. What am I going to do after this? Sure, work behind the scenes, but I didn't want to have to keep working for organizations behind the scenes. I wanted to be able to be my own boss. And I think I earned the right to want that, not have to depend on anybody or take orders from anybody. Not that I don't, care to listen to people who I work for, but I just wanted to be my own. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm very happy. Listen, you're going to have people out there that's not going to like what you say, like what you do, and that's fine. But respect us because we're on that level now. And that's the only thing I ever asked for the listeners.
Damn right. Damn right. And again, the podcasting space is so oversaturated. It's very difficult to hear something new or unique. It's not an easy space for black folk to exist in. I'm going to tell you right now, folks, no one is giving us anything. There are opportunities that we have earned a long time ago that we got to go get ourselves because no one's going to give it to us. And
hmm
again, all these big corporate podcasts, and you know who they are. And I'm not just talking pro wrestling. I'm talking all sports, true crime, all of that, straight up news, all of these corporate podcasts owned by these big companies. It is incredible how much we've been kicking their ass. And I'm going to say it like that. I'm going to toot that horn. I'm not going to stop tooting that horn because it's important for the world to know that the support that our audience is giving us is paying off. So please keep it coming because Devon and I, we got so many great things ahead of us that we're going to be sharing with you folks. More great guests like Tony Maglio and what have you, different perspectives. Like with this, the sky's the limit. But we don't get here without your support. And truly, folks, we really, really thank you. Thank you so much. It's just incredible. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
So real
Absolutely.
quick, we got Cena's last match that's happening this weekend. So, on our next episode, we'll do the review on that. I'm going to ask you a question from a different perspective because I know we covered a lot of Cena last episode, but let me ask you this. You've made it clear that you've probably wrestled your last match unless WWE is going to back up a Brinks truck and drop a lot of money on you or what have you, but you probably wrestled your last match. When you think about how that felt to know that you've closed the chapter, you're somebody who, because it just happened, you're someone who has a unique perspective that you kind of know what Cena might be feeling right now. Do you have any advice for John as he's heading into this match on Saturday?
I mean, I don't have to tell him, but soak it up, enjoy it. After Bound for Glory, right before I went back through the tunnel after the match, me and Bubba stood right there by the go position outside of the curtain and was really taking in the fans cheering and saying thank you Dudleys and all of that. And I remember just looking around, seeing the sea of people clapping, cheering, you know, Devon, Bubba, thank you, and it was overwhelming, to the point where I did break down a little bit and shed a tear because I knew that being on that level again, that was it. It was over. Um, and that I probably would not be hearing that again from the fans in that perspective, of course, of being in the ring. I mean, hell, not that I am going, but I can go to Hollywood and get the same thing on the red carpet or what have you. Not saying that I want to or would, but it was not the same as being in the ring, walking back and having the people really appreciate the things that you've done in there. Um, it's just a totally different feeling. And I'm sure John will experience that right before he goes through that curtain to go back into the gorilla position to say it's over. He had a tremendous career. He's done so much. He's given back to the wrestling community. He's done so much with the Make a Wish. He's just genuinely a good man. And it shows in how he represents himself. So all of his success, whether it was being the face of the company, even when people were booing him, saying John Cena sucks, he took all of that in and never once let that hurt how he felt about the business, the wrestling community. He just went out there and did John. And, continue to do that, of course. Again, I don't have to tell you that. I'm sure John already knows this. But again, just take that moment. You deserve it to soak it all in. I don't care if he gets right before he gets to the curtain and he's out there for 10 minutes before he walks back through the gorilla. Take your time. Enjoy it, man, because it's the best feeling in the world. No one out there who decides to hate on the Dudley boys, Devon or Bubba, and say we suck, we don't deserve it, or we're glad you're retiring. There's no individual out there that can take that away from me and Bubba. The things that we've done, how we have represented ourselves and what we've done has been great, but at the same token, because the fans appreciated it, it's overwhelming. We've had more people say good things about us than the so-called people that say bad things. Did it bother me when I was seeing some reports leading up to Bound for Glory? No one wants to see this match. They're old. We're not back in the 90s again. And those are the fans that basically, that weren't there during that time, that didn't know how special that match was. And that's fine. And I'm going to get a little bit off the subject here. So if I lose train of thought, bring me back, Duke. But it's almost like, I always have the argument, and I put on my Instagram, the debate on who's the GOAT between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan. Was I a Michael Jordan fan before? No, I hated Michael because I was a New York Knicks fan, and he was the only one that stopped the Knicks from going on to the NBA Finals so many years in a row. So when he went to go play baseball, I was happy. And the one time he goes and plays baseball and the Knicks have a chance to go on to the finals and win against the Houston Rockets, we choked. And when he came back, I was like, oh, that's it for the Knicks. They're not going to make it. We're done. And it's the truth. That's exactly, what happened. But there's no fan out there that can tell me, regardless of what bad things you might say about us or me, shut up. We don't need to hear you from you, Devon. That's fine. You don't want to hear it, but there's other people that do. And thank you for those that do. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I can't begin to tell you enough. I appreciate it. People say, oh, you were my childhood. Like I said on my documentary on the Devon Dudley YouTube channel, you were my childhood. You, the fans, were my childhood. Remember, I was very young when I entered this business. I was 18 years old. And I made it to ECW when I was 24, 25. So you were my childhood. Not as an adolescent, not as a teenager, but as a young adult, growing up through the business and really taking in all the love that was given to us through the 90s, through the millennium, through the later years of the millennium, going into, I should say, from 2012 to 2025. You guys were the reason why the Dudley boys were so successful. And I thank you. And for those that like to hide behind their computers and say shit that just wasn't good, you don't determine our fate. God does. Regardless of how much you might yell and scream in that computer with those keys, you don't determine our fate. God does. And so happy to say that the fans helped with that. And I say thank you.
Put this in perspective for a moment here, and we'll close on this. In 2025, Devon Dudley got himself into some of the best shape of his life, lost a whole bunch of weight. You were able to shine a light on DDP yoga and, not only Diamond Dallas Page, but also Bobby Fish and how much of a great contributor he is to health and prosperity. You were able to relaunch a YouTube channel that is very successful. You were able to get back in the ring with Bubba, and you even were able to get Spike involved and what have you. So the Dudley boys and the Dudley family were able to ride one last time, sold out a historic pay-per-view, and really were the draw of that whole evening. And now you are a 3-time award-winning podcaster. No matter what happened in 2025, Devon Dudley, you have had one of the greatest years of your life.
Yes, I have. Again, it's all through God, man. I mean, again, I can't stress that enough. When you think there's nothing at the end of the tunnel, there's no light. That light, that little glimpse of hope shines bright. And again, I can't be more happier and proud of what has been accomplished in 2025. I'm just overwhelmed by it.
It's incredible. And that's a reminder that God's always with you.
Always, my brother.
Always.
It reminds me of that picture I used to see growing up. I don't see it as much anymore, where the guy is walking through the sand and there's only one set of footprints. And he says, God, I've done everything there is to do. I've served you. I've listened. I've done everything. You said you would never leave me. You said you would always be behind me and carry me through the trials and tribulations. But what I've been going through, when I look back, I only see one set of footprints in the sand. I don't understand. When you said you would never leave me, why is it that there's only one set of footprints? God replied, because those footprints aren't yours. Those footprints were mine carrying you through all of this.
Wow.
And that's the way I feel on that. So just when you think he's not there, he's there. But you just have to open up your ears, close your mouth, and pay attention. Because people say, I don't understand. I've asked God for signs and this and that. And he's given you signs. It may not be the signs that you want, but he's given you clarity on what you should do. And a lot of times we just don't listen to those signs because it's not something that we want to hear. It's not something that we feel that, is the answer to anything that is going on in our lives. But again, if you listen and understand, you will know.
Well said. Well said. Well, what's the best way everyone can keep up with you, especially the YouTube channel and all that good stuff there, big man?
Yes, well, the YouTube channel, of course, Devon Dudley YouTube, and of course, Testify Devon, Twitter as well, Testify Devon. I'm also at DDA, Devon Dudley Academy. So if you ever want to take that next step into going into pro wrestling and you want to be taught the right way, as opposed to some guy opening up a wrestling school that's never been anywhere, gets a warehouse and decides he's going to tell you what to do, chances are you're not. If he didn't get anywhere, neither will you. Come on down to the Devon Dudley Academy. We will make sure that you have the necessary tools to get to where you need to be.
Well said.
And also you can leave messages on the Instagram on Devon Dudley Academy or even Testify Devon. I answer as much as I possibly can. Don't think I don't, because I do. I may not get to you, but eventually I will be able to get to you, and we'll go from there.
That's right. That's right. And as always, folks, Duke Loves Rasslin on Facebook, on X, DukeLovesRasslin at gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. Keep sharing. Keep letting the whole world know what you think of the show, because it's working. People are listening. We're getting recognized for it. And those awards are just Spotify. I'm pretty sure we got more coming. Apple is where the majority of you fans around the world are listening. So you know, we might be talking about this again from a different perspective real soon. Don't worry. Lastly, just an update on programming. Yes, International Duke Day is upon us. So, in fact, as you listen to this, folks, you'll be hearing this on my birthday. I will be doing a Duke Loves Rasslin International Duke Day episode like I've done every other year. But give me a couple days. I'll put that out in the middle of next week. I want to get through the weekend and enjoy and all that good stuff. And since I'm recording with Devon and we had such great news, I figured this will hold you over until I do that episode there. But
Absolutely.
you know, as always,
Absolutely.
though, what's that?
You know, and again, I'm very grateful for the awards that we won. Hey, listen, I'm looking for bigger awards and more to come, not only towards the end of 2025, but going into 2026 should be an even bigger year for Duke and Devon podcast. So I'm really looking forward to it. And again, thank you to the fans for helping us achieve those awards and really, really giving us the blessings that you have given us. We could not have done it without you, and we're very grateful and honored that you would present yourself of listening to the show, sharing it, and just loving it in general.
Testify.
My brother.
Strictly for the culture every day. Stepping style in your unique way. Patterns and colors so divine. All about the perfect line. Be yourself, let your spirit fly. In this fashion, you'll touch the sky. Strictly for the culture, brand so fine. Dress to impress and show your shine. Strictly for the culture, every day. Step in style in your unique way.
Visit www.strictlyfortheculture.ca.
Backstage whispers and the crowds roar. From matching giants to legends of yore. Devon's wisdom and Duke's keen view. Every episode feels like it's brand new. Devon and the Duke bring the heat. Wrestling tales knock you off your seat. Tune in now, don't you be late. Wrestling podcast never